But for me, it just goes back to this model of why not build your own rental, like guest portfolio outside of Airbnb so that you can have your own customers, have your own database, have your own, everything, repeat guests every single year, and not have to do Airbnb. But in order to do that, you have to be able to capture the attention through ads, through emails, through billboards, that kind of thing.
All right, welcome back to another edition of the Hideaway Show Behind the Curtain. I'm joined today by Mike Sebastian. Mike, how are we doing?
What's up? Good, man. It's sunny out. It's beautiful. I'm excited. A lot of things moving.
It is sunny. It's not raining for 5 straight days in Kentucky and washing away our hill or washing away our cabins, so it's a good day.
Yeah.
Dude, it's one of those things where Mother Nature is one thing you can't plan for as much, I will say, with owning and operating a short-term rental. Who would have thought that Kentucky would be known for hurricanes and would crush half of our deck, Like that was something I didn't sign up for. I thought I got out of that by leaving the beach market. So
PTSD.
yeah, no, seriously. That was it was wild, but it's good. So good. Well, I don't know if you heard the news, but Airbnb's cracking the whip again.
Hello.
They're they're whip. They control the kingdom, right? They are short-term rentals. They are this industry, and now they are putting this policy in place where they're preventing, trying to limit people taking guests off platform. They want to
I did hear
control
that the other day.
control that kingdom.
Yeah. I did hear that
It's
the other day that it's like future reservations and repeat reservations now, right?
yeah, it's one of those things where I, I foresee Airbnb continuing to do this over time, right? We've seen them do it before, and this is just another sign that they are trying to, I guess, have that control when it comes to guests and your properties, to where we've said this in the past of not building your business on someone else's platform, right? It's always the saying of, if Airbnb shuts down, what would you do? And this is, again, not saying Airbnb will shut down, but they're making things more strict. And if there is more of a slip up, I believe within the policy, it does say, in the event of repeated or severe violations, we may suspend or permanently deactivate your users' listings or accounts, which again, I don't think is anything new, but the fact that they came out and said it, I think they're putting more of a focus and emphasis on it.
Yeah. So I think their old policy was a huge emphasis on moving reservations or like encouraging people to book off platform. Whereas right now, that first line, like moving current, future, or repeat guests, it's, to me, I was like, that is it. Like, we want control. We do not want you to do anything else. It also sounds like to me that they're going to be doing things to find people that are doing that. And some of the verbiage made it sound like, to me, if you have follow-up messages that go out via SMS, or if you have a way to collect their email on site, like it sounded like those things were against this new policy. It doesn't say it explicitly, but it definitely alludes to that. And there's a lot of control that they're looking for in that.
Yeah. And it's, I think there are certain aspects that I think they'd have a difficult time. For example, we utilize StayFi devices. Does this mean they're going to shut down StayFi devices? No, but I think they're going to continue trying to think outside the box on how they can limit that, right?
Yeah.
And maybe it does get to the point to where it's like, by booking a reservation through Airbnb, you shall not collect email addresses on site. Like, I don't know if that policy would ever come out or if they had the ability to do that, but they're going to start utilizing what I think we were thinking, that they may even have people out in the field, right? Going out to stay at some of these properties and just testing and seeing, like, hey, what are these hosts doing when, guests are staying at their places, things they can't detect through messages, but more so by staying at the property themselves. I do also think they're leveraging a ton of AI now moving forward. I think that's also one of the reasons for this policy. Is they are utilizing the power of AI to be able to detect things more from a messaging perspective. There were all these little hacks before, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
if you said IG, it wouldn't get flagged as you trying to promote your Instagram account to them, or if you spelled out the words of your phone number, right? that want to get flagged in the message as suspicious. I foresee they're going to be cracking the whip on that even more, especially with AI to be able to flag and notify that, to where I think hosts need to be a little bit more careful when they are utilizing the Airbnb platform to try to not leverage those hacks that used to work, right?
So
And
my thing is, like, I support Airbnb trying to keep everybody that books or looks on Airbnb. If you're using their platform to find your rental, makes total sense, right? But I think this gets deeper into what you and I have been talking about, where if you and me want to have a business, right, instead of growing Airbnb, if you and me want to have a business that is like, we can send out an email and get reservations or whatever, then we're going to have to treat it like a business. We're going to have to do advertising. We're going to have to do all of this stuff. That's what Airbnb does for us today, right? They advertise for us. They build the customer base. They have all these people that are going to go on vacation that are looking for rentals, just like the ones that we'd have on Airbnb. So there's definitely a benefit to it. And that's what the guest pays for with that 14% or whatever the percentage is that they do now. I understand it from that perspective of not finding on Airbnb, taking the Google image and then looking up the Google reverse image search or whatever and finding a direct booking site. Like, genius way to do it. Also kind of sucks for Airbnb because they put a lot of money into it and their insurance and everything else. But for me, it just goes back to this model of, why not build your own rental, like, guest portfolio outside of Airbnb so that you can have your own customers, have your own database, have your own, everything, repeat guests every single year, not have to do Airbnb. But in order to do that, you have to be able to capture the attention through ads, through emails, through billboards, that kind of thing. And it's like, if you have grandma's cabin that you converted into an Airbnb because you didn't know what else to do with it, right? That's not going to make people stop on Instagram anymore. Like, you've got to have something better than that, which just kind of increases the demand, I guess, the need, the requirement for what we've been talking about, where it's got to be unique, it's got to be stand out.
hey guys, real quick, just want to jump in here and say, if this show has been sparking ideas and helping you level up your short-term rental game, we would be so grateful if you drop us a 5-star review. It helps us and this show reach even more people who want to build wealth through unique, unforgettable stays, just like you. So thanks for being a listener. Now, back to the show. Right. Yeah, it's got to be able to catch that attention, because if you do want to, I guess, utilize your own rules and not have to be constrained by what Airbnb or these OTA platforms are telling you can and can't do, it requires you to be able to build your own business off of that platform. And again, if you're trying to run ads or promote on social or push out an email to the email list that you do have on a property that is very much below average, grandma's cabin, or just I guess I would even say just an average Airbnb, right? That doesn't have cool, unique amenities or unique features or experiential components implemented into that property. I think it's shifting that into becoming a more of a need to have these unique properties. And again, we always say unique, and everyone always thinks is like, oh my gosh, like Mike and Jordan are saying, we gotta go out and build the most unique property ever. Sure, you can definitely do that. But there's other ways to make your property unique, whether that be through amenities, whether that be through design, whether that be through the experience the guest has as they go to stay with you, that you even,
You're talking about
goes
the
all
red room?
this possibly the red room. I think maybe a little bit extreme. Side note, I think it's the red room cabins. You guys should look it up. We'll just say this. I'm surprised that Airbnb hasn't actually cracked the whip on them and been like, hey, like, maybe a little bit too far. But again, I don't know if it's not necessarily illegal. It's just very much unique and out there. Something I don't think I don't think we'll ever push a property to that level of uniqueness, but I think it's red room cabins, and I think they're in, if I recall, I think it's like Dunlap, Tennessee or something. If you haven't seen those, go look at those. Who knows? Maybe if I'm feeling generous, I'll throw it in the show notes and give you guys the direct link so you go check it out. But honestly, it really does. I mean, it could get to that level for some of these properties. I think that's what the modern traveler, with exception of red room cabins, is seeking when they go and stay at these places, is something that is different, something that they don't have back at home. And it's just continuing to reiterate that you need something to that level to be able to build a profitable and sustainable business.
I completely agree with that. Though, like having like these are people that are going on vacation. They don't want to go on vacation and feel like they're just staying at their own house, right?
Mhm.
Or a house worse than theirs with uncomfortable beds and terrible bedding, like all that kind of stuff. But I think if you can really create the experience where they have a place that they can leave and do something exciting, or they can stay there and relax and have everything there. Like I remember going to the beach as a kid, and we'd rent these like 16-room beach houses, and all this, and it would have all of the stuff that we needed to do right there. Like within walking distance, it was putt-putt, the aquarium, the beachfront, a pool at the house, like all that kind of stuff. And what's happening now is all that stuff is getting brought into these Airbnb experiences. And I think it's even better because I would love to go meet up with my family in the middle of Eastern Tennessee or Tennessee, Eastern Kentucky, wherever it is that we live, and have all our houses. And but I would see like going out there, staying there for the majority of the day, like hanging out, playing putt-putt, playing volleyball, playing pickleball, whatever it is that you want to do right there, connecting with your family, experiencing like all the conversation that you've missed out on because y'all live in different states, that kind of thing right there on site. That's a huge value to people that are going on family vacations. Right. Same thing for people that are going on couples vacations, going to Red
Yep.
Room or whatever it is they want to do. Like whatever that experience is, but that's what they're looking for when they leave their house is to have an experience that's different than what they get at home. They want to know that they're on vacation and be reiterated with the fact that they're on vacation the whole time they're there, from walk up to going to bed to waking up in the morning until they actually leave. And then when they leave, you want them to think, I want to go back to that place, or I want to see what else these guys have.
Right. Exactly. And if you can, even better than that, if you can figure out a way to, while they're staying with you, and this is something we're working to implement as well, is like while they're staying with us and they're already thinking and talking about, man, like I can't wait to come back next year or in 2 months or 3 or whenever they decide to come back. How can you get them to book while they're still at the property? How can you get them to rebook? And obviously, to be able to do that, a lot of times, sure, they have the Airbnb link, and there's a chance that they could go to the Airbnb link and book their stay already for the next year. I don't think we've ever had that happen where someone has actually went out of their way to go to Airbnb and rebook while there. But what we've seen is people who have, these email addresses, they can start pushing out emails to them like, hey, hopefully you enjoyed your stay. We'd love to have you back again next year. Here's $150 off your next stay or 15% off your next stay if you book today, right? And that guest, sure, maybe has a day left in their reservation, but what you're doing is you're tapping in to the excitement and the experience they have in that moment. You're capturing that emotion to get them to rebook again into the future. And you can do that in different ways, right? Where you could say like, you get 150, secure your spot today for only $150, you could say, like a deposit, make that deposit non-refundable. You could, have them, like, hey, refer a friend and you get $150 off if you refer someone in the next 48 hours or something along those lines. To really, really get them to book while on site, I think it's extremely valuable and it's recurring revenue, right? It's essentially a 2-for-1. You got one guest to come and you got them to book again while they're still staying there. And more than likely, you're not going to do that with a very average basic cabin that someone
doesn't
maybe is
have anything
coming
to do.
Right. Now, I think there are exceptions to that. I will say on the other side of this, I don't think it's as common. Some places that are like very like popular, let's say like it's the guys fishing trip, right? Like we go fishing at this spot every single year and we always stay at this cabin. Okay, sure. Like those people got it down, but I don't
That's
think you
just
can
knowing
roll.
your market though, like who your
Right.
target market is.
Exactly. So, but I
The other
think
thing
that's
is,
where.
if you could find out what they're coming for, like if it's fishing trip,
Mhm.
you can market specifically to that fishing trip. Or
True.
there's a lot of people that have come to us for a honeymoon, right? Well, if we know when their honeymoon is, then we know roundabout when they got married, right? So then we can say, hey, your anniversary is coming up sometime in the next few months. Any interest in, booking again? There's whole different campaigns that you can do specifically from that. But it all goes back to that core factor of having an experience that people A, love and B, want again, right? They want to keep doing over and over again.
Yep. Yeah. It'll be interesting as we continue moving forward with this and as we ourselves continue to push out unique stays and experiences, and hopefully others as well are starting to get on board with this, because I think it's starting to become the I don't know, it's what allows you to rise to the top in the short-term rental industry today. Because there's a lot of people still that say like short-term rentals, like they're a bust. They're not as profitable as they once were. And I've heard a lot of people say, like, mentioning what we're doing in the unique stay space. They're like, unique stays is the way to go. The design and killer amenities is the way to go. Everyone keeps saying that. I think the bar is raised for short-term rentals to where if you aren't willing to invest the money in amenities, design, and a cool, unique looking cabin, you are going to be one of those people that agrees with them when they say Airbnbs are not profitable. You will agree with them because your place just doesn't make what it needs to make, because it's not a top tier quality property that's competing against places that have a hot tub, a sauna, a putt-putt course, an A-frame up on top of a cliff overlooking the mountains, right? Like those are the properties that are absolutely crushing it. Yeah. And everyone else is getting squeezed to the middle, which now is almost becoming the bottom.
So
from that
in
perspective,
saying that they're crushing it too, like that to me, the whole thing from Airbnb about, then keeping everybody on platform. If you're crushing it on Airbnb and Airbnb says, oh, hey, we changed our filter system. This actually happened to you the other day, right? We've been getting 1 million views on our posts for how many months? And then all of a sudden you log on the other day and we got like 5 views or 5 likes or whatever. Some metric went down by a factor of 10 or 100
on Instagram.
Yeah. And you started looking around at other properties and all of them did the same thing, right? Well, what happened, I can tell you this from the ad industry, is something in Instagram changed. An algorithm, the way they count something, a view, a metric, I don't know what it was. There's an email that went out at some point somewhere to someone to let them know that they're going to change the way that they're calculating this metric, right? Well, all of a sudden, all of our views, click, likes, whatever, started to slow down, which directly impacts our business, right? Fortunately, we're smart enough to be multi-platform, so we're not super worried about that specifically. But if Airbnb does that, and you followed this policy and 100% of your reservations are only through Airbnb, well, all of a sudden you're responsible for XYZ number of mortgages, right? Plus whatever debt you had to collect in order to build this place the way that we're saying it. It's not cheap, And all of a sudden they change because it's impossible for Airbnb to care about every host that they have, right? And they might say that, and yes, they care about their hosts. They don't exist without their hosts. That's all true. However, they don't care about every single one because they're going to change their policies to benefit Airbnb, which might mean that you go bankrupt.
Right. Yeah, because they have to look out for Airbnb, look out for Airbnb first to be able to provide and look after the hosts that they indicate
it's funny
they care about.
Because this policy makes me want to tell hosts, be more like Airbnb. Airbnb is concerned about Airbnb, and you should be concerned about you, right?
Right.
Use Airbnb, follow their policies. We're doing that 100%. We have our stuff on Airbnb. And when a guest books on Airbnb and they ask, and we've had this all the time where people are like, do you have a direct booking site? Can I book off platform? Right.
We had it today.
Yeah. Our response is you need to use the platform that you found us on. Like out of respect for Airbnb. They've done a fantastic job at giving us insurance, giving us marketing, giving us a ton of reservations, right? But if someone uses their platform to find us, they need to use that. They need to respect that, right? Outside of that, we also do our own advertising because we want to be a business, not a facilitator of Airbnb's business. So in that, when we do find somebody on Instagram or email or word of mouth or whatever, we want to keep those people in our system, right? And that's exactly how we're talking to them there. So we do follow their policy and still use them. The crossover and the misunderstanding of policies like this really cracks me up because I see it in the Facebook groups where people are, oh, we can't do anything. This is ridiculous. And I'm like, you guys get $1 million of insurance for free on every single reservation. You guys get thousands and thousands of dollars a month, hundreds of guests a year, right, from Airbnb, and you're bitching and complaining. You're whining and complaining that they're doing all this work and you don't get to steal the data from them. Like, come on, just find another way to do it.
But yeah, I mean, and to your point just a little bit ago on Instagram changing their algorithm or views decreasing, that is, I think, a perfect example of if you just build it on one platform, you run the risk of if something changes, you go from, crushing it to struggling to pay the mortgage, right? And that's where, we always say like, everyone gets the be on other platforms other than Airbnb. I think that's common knowledge. Everyone understands that. But then a lot of people hear us talking about, oh, what we're doing on Instagram. They're like, great, I just need an Instagram account. Sure, that's a piece of the puzzle, but why not also have, push it to Facebook? Why not also push it to TikTok? Why not also collect emails and send out, newsletters to your audience? Like, having these platforms allows you to maintain that control. So if one of these pillars all of a sudden it doesn't come crumbling down, I should say, but all of a sudden decreases views or income, it gives you a chance to recover and figure out why, pivot and adjust, right? And that's what's happening with Instagram, where it appears for a decent amount of people that reels views and interactions are significantly down. Some of the biggest accounts that we follow, I've seen them consistently get 50 to 75,000 per reel, or from a views perspective on a reel. And over the last week and a half, they're getting anywhere from 5 to 6,000. And that's what we were getting on average, which we thought was great and then you sprinkle in the few that are doing 300,000, 17.7 million. Those are always nice, and those are going to continue to push, but they're making a pivot there. And I did a little bit of research last night. It sounds like carousels are making a big comeback. And another thing that I want to test out for us is they haven't confirmed if it's actually a thing or if it's just a bug or their Instagram's algorithm's a little bit messed up, but story views are increased significantly. So someone said they were getting 15,000 views on their story and getting 4,000 views on their reel. But they said to post essentially one story per day. So we're going to experiment with that a little bit to see if we can't tap into that shift and be like, okay, well, let's drop our link in our story and be like, hey, book us, looking for a couples getaway, book your stay here, link in there. If you've got 10% of 15,000 views, 15,000 people to click on that link to at least go to your direct booking site, it gets them thinking and starting to look and be like, okay, maybe I do want to go here. Or, when they do become ready, they remember they're like, the Hideaways, we should go look and consider staying there. So it requires you to adjust and adapt it's all funny too, that's happening.
Because what you're talking about is post diversification, right? So we're talking about diversification in platforms that you're marketing to, platforms that you're booking on, but you're also talking about post diversification because reels went down, but stories went up, right? That happens all the time within these tech companies where they're like, we want XYZ. We want to say in the next quarterly earnings report that our Instagram stories have, gone up 100%. Well, all of a sudden they can slow down showing reels and increase showing stories. Right. And we'll throttle whatever it is. And now that's going to meet the needs of Meta. Right. And what we're trying to do is meet ours. So if we have post diversification, because we have carousel posts and reels and regular posts and all the other things that are in there, right? That's a ton of work. And the first thing that comes to mind is what everyone says is I don't have time, or that's a lot of work, or whatever. Well, what that goes back to is making sure that your business, right? Because this is a business, if you're doing that, has enough cash flow from the properties that you're managing to be able to hire some of those things out, right? So the nicer property that you get, the more that you can charge and the more that you can wrangle in the costs and increase that delta in your profit margin, right? Which from what we found comes with really unique properties, right? Then the more that flywheel moves itself, so you can have someone do your social media.
Right. You start to, as we talk about all the time, is you start to stop working in the business and you start working on the business, right? You come from being the guy who's doing the social posts or the messaging to being the one who overlooks everything and is just essentially, making sure everything is aligned and moving in the direction we want to move. And I think you hit it spot on with that's where these unique stays, these unique properties, unique short-term rentals will allow you to do that. And then again, just continuing to being ready to adjust and pivot when necessary. Because we couldn't have predicted that Airbnb was going to come out with this off platform policy. We couldn't have predicted that Instagram just decided to put a big kibosh on reels and now carousels is the new hot thing, right? You can't predict that, but you need to be able to, when it does happen, take it in, and then kind of pause and figure out your next course of action. right? Like, do I need to invest time into the Airbnb off platform policy to make sure our properties aren't, in jeopardy or at risk? For us, no, because we were smart enough in the beginning to not put ourselves at risk of getting flagged and deactivated.
I learned that lesson on Facebook for us about 7 years ago.
Oh yeah?
Just the little crash that shut down those businesses. But
Oh yeah.
I will say one thing for anyone that's listening is we also couldn't have predicted that the stock market would crash 12, 13, 14% that it's done right now. But that real estate has not done the same thing. So if you're looking for a safer investment, free to call us and invest in some future short-term rentals.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think real estate short-term rentals are still very much a profitable, smart, wise investment. Are they bringing in, the COVID returns they were before? No. Now, with that being said, I think unique stays and experiential properties have the potential to bring in that type of profit. So, but again, it comes down to really running this like a business. It's nothing new. It's nothing earth shattering. And I think people hear it all the time. And I think some people either kick it to the curb or kind of gloss over it and try, yeah, well, Airbnb is still there. So like, I'll get to it in 6 months. I'll get to it in 9 months. It's like, cool, that's fine. You'll more than likely be okay because Airbnb is not going anywhere, but you don't know that in 6 to 9 months. What if Airbnb all of a sudden is just like, you know what? We're going to take this percentage that we're charging guests and now that goes to the hosts, right? That's always been something that's kind of a floater out there as something they may do. Will they do it? You don't know. But if they do, are you prepared when that happens? And that goes for having your property on different platforms, on different channels. Are you in a position where you can handle if things go wrong, if there's a shift in the industry, if there's a shift on a platform? I can guarantee if you're only on one of these and there is a shift that happens, you're going to be in a world of hurt. You're going to be scrambling and you're going to have wish that you didn't push that to-do item out 6 to 9 months. Start today. Start building your business today, whether that be collecting emails, whether that be just go to Instagram, grab your phone right now and start up an Instagram page. Yeah, I don't care if your content isn't high quality, right? Go look at some of our first posts. Like they were terrible. I thought they were great at the time. They were absolutely atrocious compared to where we're at now. But the biggest thing is you have to start somewhere. Put one foot in front of the other. Take the first step. The second step will appear. Take the second step. The third step will appear. Just continue to move forward and don't just sit still and sit there and have your fingers crossed that, well, hopefully Airbnb doesn't do anything. Hopefully VRBO doesn't. I don't know what'll happen to VRBO, but maybe it'll be a blessing if VRBO just went away. No, I'm just kidding. We love VRBO.
Keep adding fees on all of our guest reservations, then
it's
not going to be around much longer.
Yeah, the host fee. That's 2 days in a row we've gotten that question. But
dude, they're a clunky platform. I'll say that.
Yeah, they are very much a clunky platform. But again, I would love to eventually get to the point where we are one of those properties or one of those hosts that says like, hey, do you have an Airbnb or VRBO link? I haven't gotten around to it on this property because we've been absolutely fully booked with our unique properties that we brought online, right? And I think
sign me up to that.
There's so many different facets and components of that you can really tap into that I don't think get discussed in the everyday world of short-term rentals. Everyone's always worried about ADR, occupancy, cash flow, and no one thinks about like if you are bringing in a property online. I think Mike with STR Secrets talked about this like these different pre-launch strategies, right? Like being able to promote a property before you're even ready to list it. Start to get that buzz and that attention out there and show people what property is coming online, right? And start to, tap into that excitement of people like, oh my gosh, I want to go stay at this new property, right? Everyone likes new, whether the house itself is new, maybe it's just newly designed, or maybe it is an entirely new property. Tapping into, sales from a pre-launch perspective, I think is extremely valuable. There's so many different strategies that you can tap into that it's not just a matter of going into Price Labs, adjusting prices and hoping you hit your numbers. I think that's still a very important fundamental, but the industry is continuing to mature and get bigger and better where it does require you to start thinking outside the box, having other platforms, and at the end of the day, building your own business, not on Airbnb or VRBO or these other OTA platforms.
I completely.
So I would say
it's critical.
if this mic wasn't dropped, I would, drop the mic, but I can't drop the mic. It would be a disaster. You guys would stop hearing me, and it wouldn't be ideal. So
Next time.
next time when I get a upgrade mic, that'll be in due time. So no, it's, I saw I don't even know. It was almost like scurrying cats almost on these Facebook groups. Everyone's like, oh my God, did everyone see the policy that, that Airbnb just released? And it's like, so I went out and looked at it. I was just like, to me, it's like, it doesn't bother me. There was nothing really on there that they indicated in there that I was like, what's different? Like if they changed something completely that was just like jeopardize our business, how we do things, then I would definitely be concerned. But it was just like, if you are proactive in what you do and do things the right way initially, when policies like this come out, it should be more so just one of your morning news articles you read to start your day and move on, right? It's not something you talk about for the next 5 to 7 days on these Facebook groups because you're freaking out because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, completely agree with that. The ones that are freaking out, I'm like, this is not a surprise. This is what they have to do to protect their own business, and they have a lot more stakeholders in theirs than I have in mine. That's for sure.
Oh, dude, absolutely. So in the spirit of not talking about this for days on end, I think that for me, that does it. Unless you have anything else, Mike.
I'm good on my end. It's always good talking to you.
It's amazing talking to you. We probably talk 4 or 5 times a day. So this will probably be the first of 4 times that we talk today. But for everyone, we appreciate you hopping on. That is another amazing episode of the Hideaway Show Behind the Curtain Edition. I'm Jordan Holmes. He's Mike Sebastian. Until next time, take care, everyone.